Sayadaw spoke yesterday about how Vipassana starts to occur for practicing yogis who are observing mental physical phenomena that are related by cause and effect. And Sayadaw spoke about how if the yogis reach the stage of seeing how these mental physical phenomena related by cause and effect arise and pass away, there are many good things that the yogis experience. And these are called the Vipassanupakilesas, the defilements of insight. Those who do not know that enjoyment of these good things that come through the practice, that is not the path of Nibbana. Those who do not know that these good experiences that come in the practice are not realization of the path, think highly of these experiences. They think they're very good, especially the joy, peacefulness, and tranquility that arises, piti, sukha, passaddhi. And the Buddha also praised the pleasure that arises at this stage as amanusi rati hoti. A pleasure arises, a delight arises that is better than the pleasures of the human or deva worlds. In the human world, as well as the deva world, there are many, many pleasures that one can enjoy through the senses. In the deva world, one is always enjoying good sights, good smells, good tastes, good touches, especially the touch between male and female, good sounds, all the things that come through the senses are very delightful. And in our world, in the human world, this is the world of the senses. So we follow our craving people tend to follow their craving for good sense pleasures, of which there are many, many that can be obtained in the world. So the pleasure that arises, the delight that arises due to the practice is far better than the pleasure that can be found in the sense world, and thus it's called amanusirati. Now the yogis who are practicing apply effort to observe the arising object so that the mindfulness is effective. It sticks to the object, and the samadhi, the mind is falling collected on the object. So the factors of virya, sati, and samadhi are being developed and strengthened by the noting. And also there's the jhanic factor of accurate aim and contacting the object directly. So with these, the bhavana mind is occurring. This mind is clean, and it's initiated, it's begun, and then developed time and again, so that it becomes very special. And with that bhavana mind, one comes to know mental and physical phenomena, how they are related by cause and effect, and one comes to see how they arise and pass away. So thus Vipassana knowledge begins. And if one continues to practice to see how mental and physical phenomena arise and then pass away very quickly, at this stage, lights and joy, happiness, tranquility, lightness, and so on, many pleasurable things occur. And especially, and these things occur because the mind is good and knowledge is being developed. So the yogis, when one makes continuous effort to observe the arising object, sati becomes better and better. And to the extent that sati is good, samadhi is also good. And so these factors, virya, sati, samadhi, become quite good. And also there's accurate aim. So the mind is clean. And at that time, the mind-produced materiality, that is chittaja rupa, in particular the blood, becomes very clear and clean. The Buddha described the pleasure that arises at this stage in the practices as amanusirati, a delight that is better than what can be experienced in the sense world. This is the pleasure of knowledge and the developed mind. And at this stage, the yogis are delighted with the practice. And they won't give up the practice at this point. They'll continue to practice. They feel as though, now I have a place to be. Of course, if due to conditions they have to leave the retreat, they feel like they've got to come back soon to continue their practice, and they feel weary of whatever other places that they have to go to. At this time, in the yogi's being, there arises what is called samapavata virya, balanced effort. This effort, at the start, we make initial effort to begin the practice. And Sayadaw mentioned before that this is arambha dhatu. This is the effort we make to start the practice. And then when we encounter obstacles, we have to increase our effort to overcome them. Especially this is when laziness. We have to step up the effort to overcome laziness, sleepiness. And this is the second level, aradha virya, or stepped up effort. And then from there, there's also progressive effort to reach the goal. The effort that continues going up in stages, like up in stages steadily, without stopping until we reach the goal. So this type of virya that occurs at this stage in the practice, that is this effort, that courageous effort that is balanced, it boosts one's practice steadily. And it's like when you lift up something heavy, being able to lift it up steadily and not letting it drop back down, just continually lifting it up and up and up. This type of virya is like that. So it's called supagahita. That means that the way it boosts our practice is good. It boosts us up gradually, step by step. So this is what is called, this effort at this stage is called samapavata supagahita virya. So yogis who trust the meditation teachers and follow the instructions respectfully, in a humble way, for some yogis, they can reach this stage in 1 week, in 7 days. And for some others, it may take 3 weeks. And for some, it may take a month. If one doesn't reach this stage in 1 month, this is a sign that something is lacking in the practice, in the way the yogi is carrying out the start of the practice, yogis don't want to sit, because when they sit for a little while, then pain arises, and they don't have much patience yet. So patience is low, and their body hurts. So the yogis feel afraid. They feel afraid that they will get sick or die. And therefore the yogi changes his or her posture frequently because of the pain. And samadhi does not develop. At the start, there are many unpleasant feelings that arise in us. And if the yogi can be brave without being afraid of death, then energy becomes very good. The yogi tries their best, works courageously, and observes the unpleasant feelings, and comes to see that they pass away. And at that point, the yogi is delighted. So when one sees that the unpleasant feelings disappear due to the determination to observe them, when it's as though it becomes so easy that one feels it's a bit careless, and one longs for the pain to come back because one feels that the noting was good then, and now it's harder. So virya is the quality of courage to face difficulties. And with one's virya, when one can overcome difficulties, then one becomes brave about facing them. So virya at this stage in the practice becomes balanced. There's no slacking off of effort. So at the start of the practice, sometimes the yogis don't make enough effort. And Sayadaw mentioned what this is called. Sitila. Sometimes the effort at the start is lax. And when effort becomes balanced, this doesn't occur. And also sometimes the yogis make too much effort. And that's called asarada. This is applying too much effort. But at this stage in the practice, when the effort is balanced, then it's never too little and never too much. And this is what is called samapavata virya. So to explain about unbalanced effort, earlier in the practice, sometimes effort is lacking. Sometimes the yogi may be working lightly, not making ardent effort, observing coolly and casually, a bit like one is just reciting one's lesson, not really applying oneself. And at that point, due to the low effort applied, the yogi becomes overwhelmed by tina and meda, sloth and torpor. Sloth is the state of mind that retracts, that wants to back off and take it easy. And torpor is the state of mind that is solid and unworkable like cold butter. So these qualities overwhelm the yogi when the effort is low, and thus the yogi is not able to observe every arising object without a break. This is what happens when there's low effort to observe the object. Starting with the rising and the falling, instead of observing every arising object without a break, there are gaps sometimes. And when there are gaps, then the noting becomes sparse. The notings become spread out, not occurring close together. And at that time, knowledge won't develop. So this is what happens with yogis who practice in a superficial way, or who do not have enough courage in the practice. Sometimes the yogi has a lot of desire. They want to gain the Dhamma, and they want to note continuously. So they apply a lot of effort. And sometimes this happens in the yogi's practice. And when the effort is excessive like this, then starting with the rising and the falling and every other arising object, the mind becomes separated from the object. The mind is no longer on the object. It's become detached or separated. And thus scatteredness of mind, restlessness arises. So it's not good when effort is too little, when there's low desire to apply the practice. This is not good. And it's also not good when effort is too much due to high desire for results. The effort that is free of these extremes is called samapavata virya, and that's what occurs at this stage in the practice. The virya that occurs at this stage is free of tinamida and free of odicca. Tinamida brings slack effort, and odicca brings an unstable, restless mind. So this virya is free of these faults. And because of that, it is able to increase gradually. It is both balanced and strong. So at this point, laziness is also overcome, and the restlessness that can come from excessive desire is also overcome. And at that point, the yogi is able to observe the arising object continuously, and also the knowledge that the yogi gains is clear, distinct, and develops. There's a description that applies to what respectful yogis experience. And it said, Teka kara vipassana sura. So teka means sharp. So the knowledge is sharp. And kara means hard. Vipassana means clear and also agile. And sura means developed. It develops steadily. So for a yogi who is practicing respectfully, their knowledge at this stage becomes sharp, and it also becomes hard, and also becomes quite clear, and it develops stage by stage. So what is needed for that good knowledge to arise, this good knowledge that yogis can develop? First of all, samadhi. Samadhi is the quality of falling collectively on the object. When samadhi is good, there's no movement due to raga or dosa, greed and anger. So this is good samadhi, and when this samadhi, when the power of this samadhi becomes fulfilled, then our knowledge becomes sharp. And further, for good knowledge to arise, our knowledge should be broad. If our noting is not continuous, then our knowledge will not be broad, because there will be gaps. So although we'll have knowledge from time to time, it won't be broad-based because of the lack of continuity. So one has to note continuously. And for this, one has to aim. Like when we play darts. So we throw the dart, we have to aim at the bullseye. And it's like this with the object. Because we practice aiming at the bullseye of the object, our sati becomes good. To the extent that our sati is good, then our vision or our knowledge will become strong and broad. So we will know clearly. For example, in one noting, we will come in one noting of the rising, we'll come to know many occurrences of stiffness or tension and so on. By observing the prominent object, we come to know many other objects that are occurring at the same time because of the broad vision that is due to good sati. So if the yogi is experiencing this type of broad ability to see very broadly when one notes, this is a good yogi. One can make a note of that. If we take pleasure in what we experience, we won't progress. But when one but if we don't, if we can do our noting calmly, observe calmly, then our mind will become clear. So although at this stage in the practice we experience many pleasurable things, if the yogi remembers the instructions of the teacher, that is, the teachers say at this point, there are many better things to come. There's more to come, don't stop here. So the yogi, with faith in this instruction of the teacher, due to one's faith that one has to continue to note, one's knowledge becomes clear and distinct. And further, our vision develops. So the development of knowledge is that we see, first of all, nama and rupa. We see how they're related by cause and effect. And we come to see their three characteristics, that they arise and then pass away, so therefore they are impermanent, and they are suffering and lack an inherent self. So Vipassana knowledge has begun. And when we continue to apply effort, our knowledge develops further and further. Effort is courage, basically. And when one has to face the enemy, a courageous person won't back up. So sometimes yogis back up in the practice because they encounter pain and then they start to worry about their health. So because of that concern, they become lazy about noting, and tina, sloth and torpor, come in. So if one loses the battle with pain, then one will only encounter losses. But if one has to apply courage at this point, to face the experience bravely. And so one goes forward, one advances to continue to observe the object. And with each success, the yogi becomes braver and braver. So this is how the application of effort makes one brave in the practice, and it makes our knowledge develop stage by stage. Due to good effort, one comes to develop knowledge that continually goes up and up. So one can draw the conclusion that this type of sharp knowledge that is sharp and hard, broad, clear, and develops steadily is due to the factors of, first of all, samadhi being good. And that's what makes our knowledge become sharp. And good mindfulness, good sati, is what makes our knowledge both strong and broad. And the faith in the practice, the faith in what we are doing, is what makes our knowledge clear and also agile. Effort in the practice is what makes our knowledge develop stage by stage. Virya is translated in, virya is a Pali word, and it's translated in various ways in other languages. But its literal meaning is that which a brave person possesses. It's the quality of, you could say it's courage or bravery, but it's what someone who is brave possesses. It's the quality that they have. Courage is applying effort in order to bring about good results and in order to avoid bad results. So when we see a person who behaves in that way, we say, that person is courageous. They have the courage to do this. So in the practice, when one is courageous in facing difficult objects, such as pain, one applies effort, increasing one's effort gradually, and one gradually comes to see the object disappear. And at that point, the yogi feels, I didn't think I'd be able to get over that. I never thought I'd be able to note that. So seeing their success, one becomes brave. And a brave person in Pali is called vira, which is like the Latin word for those of you who know Latin. And this cause for a person to be brave or to be vira is virya. This is their quality. So when one is brave, one can overcome obstacles with suitable means, and one has the courage to do what brings about benefit and to avoid what will bring bad results. This is the work of a good person. People who are lower level, they just do what they want. They won't have this quality of bravery. And someone who is brave won't consider themselves, regardless of their own personal, how it might affect them, they apply themselves with courage to bring about good results and to avoid or prevent bad results from happening. And the word virya means the type of thing that this courageous person does. To prevent unwholesomeness, akusala, and to develop a clean, wholesome mind, kusala, is the work of a courageous person. One needs to determine and to plan. One needs to establish a plan for doing this. Have a determination to avoid what is unwholesome and to develop wholesomeness. And such a one will develop virya. So the yogis here who are practicing, some yogis may be doing this. Yogis do this. For example, okay, I'm going to sit for an hour. So we make this plan. I'm going to sit for an hour. I'm going to observe the rising and falling without missing. And we make that plan or that determination ahead of time. And in walking, we have the intention or the plan to try not to miss. I'm going to observe lifting, moving, and placing, and the other main objects, so lifting, placing, and so on, without missing. Of course, one cannot help missing, but one has the intention and the plan not to do so. So one also plans how long am I going to sit, how long am I going to walk. And with general activities, one has the plan or the determination, I'm going to make effort to observe what I do in the times that I'm not sitting and walking. So this type of planning should be used. We should plan our time in this way, saying, okay, at this time I'm going to sit for 1 hour and observe the rising and falling. So we set up that mind state. And at this time I'm going to walk for an hour and observe lifting, moving, and placing. And also, at this time I'm going to observe general activities without missing. So one has this plan for one's day as a yogi. And one, of course, has to have determination to do this. But when we do this, when we plan like this and do according to our plan, we try to carry it out, we come to possess courageous effort. At the start, though, sometimes we're slack, and then tina and mita, sloth and torpor, or laziness, come in. And sometimes we have too much desire, and then we get restless. But by applying the practice steadily, by applying our efforts steadily, we go through the true stages of effort. We make the initial effort to do the practice, and encountering difficulties, we increase our effort. And then the effort gradually develops through these stages until it reaches the stage where it is continuously increasing, strong and continuously continuing to develop. So this is what is called samapavata. And if one applies oneself, one can reach this stage. At the stage of udiyabhyajnana, the insight into the fast arising and passing away of phenomena, this balanced effort occurs in a very special way. If virya is balanced, then sati and samadhi will also be balanced. Sati is always needed in the practice, and whenever knowledge is present, sati is always there. So sati becomes, our practice seems to become effortless at this stage. And so one is able to observe the object easily. When the knowledge that is at udyabhyajnana, when this knowledge matures. So one continues one's practice, and one goes from seeing the arising and passing away, the fast arising and passing away of phenomena, to the point where one starts to just see them disappearing. All one sees is the object disappearing. And continuing, when one sees the objects disappearing all the time, as well as the mind, then one becomes afraid. And continuing, one becomes bored with this. And becoming bored with this continual arising and passing away, one wants to become free of it. So one works to become free, to continue one's practice so that it will develop further. And then the noting becomes very comfortable. So all these stages of knowledge that have just been described are the third light of sasana. The knowing, penetrating the characteristics of phenomena, lakkhana pativeda jnana. This is the knowledge that sees clearly the three characteristics, and this includes Vipassana knowledge up to this stage in which the noting becomes very comfortable. At that point, one's noting is effortless. And when one continues to practice, one goes from seeing the continual stream of arising and passing mental phenomena to seeing that which does not arise nor pass away. The cessation of these phenomena, and that is nibbana pativeda jnana, the knowledge that is able to perceive nibbana. So this is what will be talked about tomorrow night. When one comes to realize nibbana, the lights of sasana will never go out in one's being. That's all for today. Sasana will never go out in one's being. That's all for today. Sasana will never go out in one's being. That's all for today.